This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded August 11th, 2014. Episode 211. Habitual, Hype, Hebetude.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
Who sounds like he's in a bathroom, but he's... Well, we're not far off. You've got your feet up.
I am relaxing. Well, not really relaxing, but Dave thinks I'm taking it easy
You're
today.
on a junket, dude. You're on a junket.
I was
Yet
on
another.
a junket. No, I'm doing work now.
So the junket's over and you're really on junket time now.
Okay, so I'm sitting in a Airbnb in Pacific Heights. So I have like a view of the bay right now. It's beautiful. I got lucky
Right.
with this one, but no, it was over the weekend. That was DEF CON. Was like Thursday to Sunday.
Yep.
So that's all done now. That was in Las Vegas, and now I'm in San Francisco just doing work
Right.
like a pro.
And doing
you know?
work for whom? Yourself? For Contextual?
No, a little bit of that, but no, mostly supply frame stuff. So
Right.
yeah,
Got it?
got some exciting
Doing
things
work
coming
for the
there.
man.
Yeah, a little bit of work for the man. Yeah, the man's calling you, man.
The man is calling me.
And Dave might have some interesting news next week, but we can't talk about it yet. So
No, it's not. It's not confirmed yet, but something we have spoken about on the show before.
yeah,
And,
ooh, hints.
It's been a long time coming, but yeah.
No more hints, Dave. No more hints.
No, okay, right. But anyway, I've heard it's coming, and I'm going to be talking to someone about it after the show. So
Cool.
we'll have to keep it under an hour, Chris.
All right, fine.
You know, and me and my busy lifestyle. You know, I've got
Right,
a
of
busy
course. Well,
schedule. You know.
Right. Why do electronics when you can hear press releases? So yeah, there was a big announcement at the end of DEF CON actually.
What was
they're like
that
doubling.
they're moving.
They're moving it and doubling the size next year. Yeah, that's a
to
big
where?
deal. So it's still going to be in Vegas, but like they were at the Rio, which is kind of like off the main strip area, and they're going to move
Right.
it to the main strip area. And the cool thing is they're actually going to have lower cost rooms and everything as well because it's pretty expensive.
Well, it's hardly a big announcement that they're moving to a bigger hotel down the strip.
Well, going from
Sorry.
175,000 square feet to 320,000 square feet is kind of a big deal because that means you could do a lot more stuff, basically, you know? And they're expecting more people and yada, yada, yada. So
Right. Okay. What is cool, what is a big announcement, is that Tesla turned up.
they did. Yeah, that's right. I saw they had a car in there and they were encouraging people. I didn't talk to anyone from there, but there was a news article about that, how they were encouraging hacking of the firmware, basically. So that's...
Right. Well, weren't you supposed to be there to cover the event? And you didn't. And Tesla turn up and you don't talk to them?
Yeah, but it was like Tesla.
Get on the case, dude.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Anyway, how cool is that? They turn up to a hacker conference and go hack our car.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's a lot of firmware. You know, there's tons of firmware these days.
Oh, yeah, it's
you
it's
know.
everything. You could say that's what makes the car almost. Well, apart from the battery pack, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a big-ass battery pack and firmware.
It's just a golf cart, guys. Come on.
Right, it's a smart golf cart. Yeah.
Yeah. Fancy.
Oh, goodness.
I don't think they'd like that.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Or
but
they'd
I'm
probably
sure
be
they
like,
get the comparison.
we're cool with you saying that, Chris. You just stay over there. You never get to buy one of our awesome vehicles. So, yeah, it was.
Considering that they built to spec, that actually could happen, right? Are they still built to spec, or are they actually?
No, they're
getting,
mass produced now.
They're mass produced, but there's still like a waiting list, right? You can't
Yeah,
just
I
walk
think
in a
so,
showroom
yeah.
and drive one out.
No, you can. I know that they had announced they were opening a dealership in in Columbus, which is the city 2 hours south of Cleveland.
Yeah, that dealership doesn't mean they actually have stock, though.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I don't know. I'm not in the. You're closer in financially to buying a Tesla than I am, Dave. So
Right.
talk to the wife and see if you can go do some preliminary investigation.
Yeah,
it's for the blog.
Here, there's no change from $100,000. If you can even, I don't even think it's here yet.
Oh no, you can't get one there. Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think you can put your name down for one. Last I checked. But yeah,
okay.
And they won't even give you a price. But I think it's in the order of like $100,000. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's way up there.
Yeah. It's madness. Whereas in the US, you get them pretty cheap because they've got subsidies and in various states and all sorts of things. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's very cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you hack the Tesla, they'll give you a gold medallion or something, and you get a free pass to rock up any time to their factory tour, which is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't really the whole DEF CON thing. I didn't really understand it. I didn't quite
tell. Because you're not in the field, so
right. So it's really it's a security conference, right? So it's meant for people that are penetration testing, they're doing vulnerabilities, they're trying to find that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And I think a lot of that stuff, like especially like the Tesla thing, there's a lot of like contest type things where people will go there, and it's not like a trade show where you'll go around to different booths and find out about things. You'll go there and you'll actually compete. You'll compete against other people. And
got it. What? So there's rooms set up with all. Well, you wouldn't use someone else's PC; it'd be hacked. You would use your own, and you plug in and hack away. Do you? Is that what?
Yeah, well, that's some of it, right? So there was like contests for capture the flag. So that's like people trying to like do penetration testing, I think, with IP networks and stuff like that. There were capture the packet, which is the same kind of thing, but like on Ethernet, I think. And and then they did that same kind of stuff like wirelessly, right? So they were testing the same kind of thing out, trying to with either Bluetooth or over Wi-Fi, and trying to see if they could find vulnerabilities and that kind of thing. And so you'd see people sitting there kind of like the entire time, just like working
sitting
on these
in
problems.
A corner of the hotel, just sitting on the floor with their empty pizza box and their Jolt Cola and their laptop.
No.
Am
They
I
actually
being too
they were
stereotypical?
That was pretty stereotypical. Yeah,
you're right. Thank you.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it was interesting. I don't really know. I mean, and there was a lot of talks as well, and a lot of people go to those, and they're in these huge. That's pretty standard for a conference.
Yeah, of course.
But the other stuff was, a little closer to like Hamvention. Because I know that ham radio people have a lot of like contest type things. They'll do contesting where they try and make as many contacts as they can, and I mean, it was a cool experience. It was very different for me. I was kind of clueless on a lot of stuff, but a lot of the talks were really cool too, and. It mostly
Excellent.
the big thing for me was, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like thinking about even like creating a device, right? Like the last thing I think about would be like the security side, because you and I are focused on the hardware, and
our hardware generally doesn't need security. It's
it's not like super firmware. It's not necessarily network connected, and so that stuff is very different. But then you do look at like Pinocchio or an Electric Imp or a Spark or something like that, where they're meant to be these connected. They're helping other people connect, and like that's a big part of it, right? Because then when you think about, there was a talk about this that was actually really good. I thought it was pretty good. It was about just like securing as more and more like Internet of Things come online. Especially like platforms, it's like it's not necessarily that it's not just one device that can get you in trouble. It's like one vulnerable
don't
computer.
hack the device; you hack the platform.
Right, and then
that's the
and then if you have 50,000 devices deployed, now you have 50,000 vulnerable devices deployed, and
you can flash 50,000 LEDs worldwide. Awesome. You can switch off everyone's thermostat.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but like even like these thermostats, like like the Nest has some pretty beefy processors in there. You know, if you know what the target device is, and you can
it can be a zombie Nest machine.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. I mean, eventually, like the what was I had quoted the guy on Twitter at one point, but it was something about like putting Wireshark on one of your on the egg time, or that Quirky device that has, Quirky is the one that does that product design stuff, like the social product design, and they made the egg carton that can tell you when you need to buy eggs, or when your eggs have gone bad, and and he said, someone running Wireshark from your egg tray. Think about that for a bit. And that's it. I mean, that's a lot of how they, once you have a thing on the inside, if you have one device, like say you hijack the firmware update when that's coming down to whatever this device is, and then basically then you have like an insider on these networks, these trusted devices on like a home Wi-Fi. And then, you could launch attacks from there, right? And that's kind of like the stuff they were talking about. I don't know how the hacks would work, but...
Got it. So are we going to see any content from you on this DEF CON thing? Did you do interviews? Did you shoot video? Did you record audio?
Oh, yeah.
Did you...
Yeah, that was I helped out the Hackaday guys, so they'll post a bunch of stuff.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, yeah, it's, it was good.
Very good. Next week, of course, Maker Faire in Sydney.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. How's the talk planning going?
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. You'll start it
right,
in about 4 or 5 days from now.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's this Saturday, so it's already Tuesday. Yep. Better figure out something to talk about.
Go re-listen to last week, Dave.
Right. Nah, it's all good. So, yeah, if you want to meet me, come on down to Sydney Maker Faire. I'll be there for both days this weekend.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I'll be there early again. I'll probably, get like time-lapse footage of setting up and packing up and all that sort of jazz. And, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, hopefully there'll be some good footage from you then. Yeah, I don't really go to these things as like me,
right?
Usually,
but there is quite a lot of the same as last year, so
Yeah. Well, and that's the tough thing, right? I mean, so I think about going back to like Maker Faire and everything else, and it's like ultimately you go for the people, and you go to interact with people people you don't know yet, you want to meet. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is the same year to year, just because some of that stuff, unless you're pushing big projects a lot.
Somebody's built a big, car throwing robot or something. Well, they're going to have that again next year, aren't they?
Yeah, of course, right. And usually to the point where the press from the first year is like what people want to see the next year. There's actual interest in that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it is nice. It was nice to try and get to go to a non-standard one. And I don't know. There's other ones that I'm going to go to. Like I'm going to Electronica in November. That'll be different.
Yep.
And just getting to try these kind of things, and that's been different for me. So,
right.
I know for a long time I didn't get to usually. So
I challenge you at Electronica to get a photo in front of every single stand.
Oh my dude, no.
Because there's only like 2,000 of them or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be running the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Those shows are crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so that was that. What else is new by you, man, other than announcements you're not allowed to talk about and everything else?
Well, I'm almost I was kind of on track to keep my, I've fallen off the wagon.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
How I was trying to keep videos ahead of time. I tried to do it yesterday, and then YouTube screwed up, right? I didn't upload, and it didn't process it properly, and I had to wait all night, and I think it's finally... Anyway. Blah, 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 blah. Pain in the ass.
That's too bad.
Goodness.
Well, I did see you wrote a text blog, text post the other day.
Right.
I did write
a text blog. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, what is it? It's the bloody...
U-beam.
What's it called? U-beam.
Yeah.
U-beam, yes. Ultrasonic wireless charging. And yeah, okay. Technically, fine. Okay, possible. And my hat's off to them for getting their money and working hard and working their ass off for the last couple of years and supposedly have a prototype, even though that's what they claim, but they won't show it.
Well, that's
and won't tell
that's
anyone
okay.
about it.
You know, if you
okay, well,
people
fine,
can operate in stealth
but
mode, right?
why announce it if you're not, if you don't have stuff to show off? Anyway, or I never will, talk ill of anyone who puts in the hard work and and gets funding and works their ass off for a project, and so my gripe is with the practical feasibility of the project. I don't think it's going to work. Well, it's going to work. It's going to work in some way, shape, or form, but it's not going to be practically viable, either from a practical sense or from an economic sense. Just like the solar roadways. Bullshit.
So let's give some background here. It's
practically exactly the same. The parallels are very the same.
Yeah. So the background is basically U-beam is claiming that there's an ultrasonic transducer, or a transmitter rather, transmitter and a transducer, right? So the transmitter outputs, or basically has an
focused
amplifier.
Ultrasonic energy.
Yeah,
it's a phased array thing, and
it outputs
a big ass amplifier,
50 kilohertz signal, right? So you know, I'm not sure what the actual amplitude is. I don't know if they actually publish that part either.
No, of course they don't.
But probably a lot more power than you're going to be receiving. They're basically having a wall unit, something that actually can be plugged in and stuff like that. And then the idea is that you have something on your phone that's captures that energy from a directed stream, and then that charges your phone.
Apparently it charges an internal battery, which then charges your phone, just like the RCA Energy device.
Yeah,
that
so you had
debunked
posted about
years ago.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. So did you make a video about that or something?
Yeah, I made a video about this. Was like 4 years ago or so, 4.5 years ago. It was way back. One of my very early videos.
So how do you say that? Energy? That's
energy. Yeah,
that's a terrible name.
As in air and energy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but that was Wi-Fi, right?
That was Wi-Fi. That was charging your phone with Wi-Fi energy. And I did the calculations, and it's just fundamentally bullshit. Right. And, it just was not going to work. And sure enough, they just vanished.
Right. And the drop-off on... the received power, I mean, that's just going to be less for Wi-Fi because you're not going to be transmitting as much, right? They had pretty low... Well,
they transmit like a watt or half a watt. But even if you do that, it has to do with the capture area, right, of your antenna.
Right.
Because the amount of power, you may be outputting 1 watt, but the amount of power you can theoretically receive in your antenna is 4 pi r squared, right? It's the outer circumference, it's the outer area of a sphere surrounding the antenna, right? So you can do the basic math calculations, high school stuff to calculate the maximum theoretical energy you can capture at a given distance. And then, of course, you've got the inverse square law of, power drop-off and all that sort of stuff.
Drop-off over distance, right?
Yeah, and even if you do that, even if you have the thing sitting 1 meter away from your Wi-Fi antenna, it's just not going to capture enough energy to charge up. It'd take like weeks and weeks to charge up the battery, and then you use that battery to then, you can charge your phone quick, right? Because the battery's low impedance, it's got all the energy stored, right? Yep. And then you dump it. And, no. So even under ideal conditions, the thing was just worthless. It was useless.
Yeah. Right. Now the benefit to the ultrasonic thing is you can transmit more power just at the output, right? It's probably not going to be transmitting a lot.
Well, you can.
Right.
Well, there's two factors which go in to make this viable.
Right.
Right. There's two factors. One is, they're putting out, hundreds of watts or something, right?
Right.
They have to be, right? It's got to be in the order of tens of watts, hundreds of watts kind of thing. And also, it is steerable, right? So they get around from the... they get away from that, that sphere area problem which plagued
right. They're more like
device.
A beam, right? They're going to be doing more.
It's a beam. It's beam forming. It's phased array beamforming stuff. Right.
And so they talk about that too with the because they talk about speaker shaped. Basically parabolic shape for a transmitter, right? That does make sense. You can focus the beam. You can go where you want to.
That's what shows in their patent. But then they talk about phased arrays and all sorts of steerable electronic phase arrays and stuff.
Oh, okay. So, I didn't get into the patent. So
yeah. So anyway, so they claim to be able to steer this ultrasonic beam. Okay, fine, that's viable too. But then you think about it for a second, you go, well, okay, you've got to track the device you're transmitting to. So you've got to track its location in three-dimensional space.
And that's
inside
single
your home.
device. Single device.
And that's a single device. And then they claim to be able to use these in cafes and things where, there could be 50 people sitting in there. And it's just...
Well, it's okay.
My goodness.
It's very possible to step back to saying, you could have single device and it follows you around. And they do talk about having multiples, having one in each room and then having it, track. I was watching some of the earlier stuff, so I didn't catch the phased array stuff, but
anyway.
The multiples is another one. Then okay, and then then I think about that, and they talk about receiving through clothing, everything else. So basically, you'd have to have an antenna exposed in order to capture the energy. Yep. And then you brought up
and then you've got to have a two-way communication medium between the transmitter and the receiver to know about the signal level and to not be pissing away energy when there's no device there actually receiving it, right? Because, hey, we're trying to save the planet, right? And that's what these inductive wireless chargers do you can get for your phones these days, right? My phone's got one built in, one of these wireless inductive chargers, and I've never used it. I don't have a pad for it, but you stick it down on the pad, and those pads are incredibly efficient, not only at transferring the energy, but also standby power.
Really?
They
okay.
actually back off to like 100 microwatts or something. Tiny. So all they do is do tiny little pings, to see if you've placed a device on the pad. And that uses hundreds of microwatts. Very low power.
They just detect the coupling or something, or what?
They detect the coupling, and as soon as the device is coupled on there, bam, it goes full power, right? Yeah. So there's very little wastage.
Right, and that's even better than when people leave wall warts plugged in.
Oh yeah,
those things just
wall warts,
burn based on leakage induction stuff like that, right? I mean they.
Well, you've got the same thing here because you've got to use a wall wart to power it, right? So.
Yeah.
So so all the wastage is in the wall wart and not in the you
can feed it back to the wall
circuitry.
wart though. I mean, there's some chargers that do that. I think.
Anyway, they're incredibly low standby power. They're cheap. They're readily available now. They work. They're high efficiency. There's no problems with having to steer energy. There's no safety issues with regards to pumping high ultrasonics. It's not just the frequency. I can imagine getting multiple ones of these in a room, and what if they get out of sync and then there's a beat frequency between them? Whoa. That's brown note stuff, right? I mean,
yes. We named one of our shows after brown note stuff. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Galaxy far, far away.
That's
anyway,
right.
The whole idea is that, the girl who runs this, she's a graduate not in engineering, in astrobiology or something. She got this wonderful idea, and she just ran with it, right? And which is great. I encourage people to do this, but sometimes you got to know, you got to stop, step back and go, well, is this really viable? And it's all the problems are solvable, but you're kind of missing the big picture in that, is it cheap and practical? And the answer is no. It never can be. It's not. Right. There's no way this can possibly compete financially, technically, power-wise, as saving and efficiency with inductive charging pads. There's no way.
Or, well,
yeah, you're
even,
adding many orders of complexity and cost on top of, and all these, we've got to get accurate location of where the device is, and then you've got to do then you've got to do communication between them, handshake, and then you've got to use a phase array ultrasonic transmitter. Oh, man, it's like, wow.
Well, and
I
ultimately,
couldn't think of anything more complicated if I tried.
Oh, yes, you could. Ultimately,
I could,
though,
but,
right, the main thing is that it's all about like what kind of pain points you're solving, right? I mean, that's what people talk about as pain points.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
pain
at a
points,
certain point, the
that's
first
the big
time,
word. Yeah.
the first time this thing doesn't work, and the same thing for the Qi charger, however you say that thing, the inductive pad.
Yeah. The Qi.
First time it doesn't work, and someone has to just say, "Screw it, I'll just plug in my wall
I'll just plug
wart."
in my 5-volt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or even. Screw it!
Yeah.
I'm on the road right now, right? I'm not going to bring that stuff with me necessarily.
You're not going to bring it with you. Why would you?
Well, and
why
aside
would
from the
cafes,
feasibility, right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's the thing.
Why
aside
would
from the
cafes
feasibility.
go to all huge expense? Yeah, the feasibility, the practicality. And imagine this is one thing they tell. Okay, we'll put them in cafes and we'll, all be able to transmit to all the users. And then you step back and think about it. Well, A, they've got to install all this transmission infrastructure. B, everyone has to have this little dongle which they plug into their phone to make it actually receive and store and charge your phone from. So either you've got to carry that everywhere yourself, right? It's not going to be built into the phone, right, as the current inductive ones are. That's a huge advantage.
Well, it could get there eventually.
Here. They're already built in.
That is possible, though. If it worked, it could. Right? It
come
could.
on. No.
Let's give the benefit of the doubt, Dave. Come on.
Okay, let's just assume, okay? I'll grant that, okay? It's possible to build into the phone. It's not, but I'll grant it, okay?
Yeah.
And because being the generous debater that I am.
Benevolent overlord here.
No,
benevolent
right?
cynic.
Even assume, okay? Well, no, actually, I was talking about the practicality side. Assuming it's an external dongle, right? You've either got to carry it everywhere or you've got to go to the shop and they have to give it to you. And what happens if you bugger off with it? So you'd probably have to sign for it or something and then give it back, get a receipt for you. It's just, it's impractical. It's just ridiculous when they can just install a simple little charging pad which costs $20 now on eBay. You can buy them. That's not even bulk. That's one-off delivered, right? $20 for an inductive charging pad. You can just sit on the coffee table at the restaurant and people can just lay their phone on it and use their phone at the same time as well as it's charging and they're drinking their coffee.
Well, all the practicality stuff aside, I mean, I know that I agree with all that stuff. The only thing that honestly bugged me about it was in the demo video where they didn't show current draw. And that's what I asked her on Twitter. I asked her on Twitter just like if they had current draw or any kind of feature, that's the only thing that
they don't have any data at all.
Well, this is the same thing that happens
none that they're giving.
This is the same thing that happens with like piezoelectric stuff, right? You have there's the same, people like, "Oh, well, it generates all this voltage." I don't care. I care about power, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to.
You've got to know the difference between voltage and current, yeah. And she obviously didn't know that right back in the day. I mean, this video's years old, right? And she's not an engineer.
Right.
She was demoing this at a trade show, right? And she was, talking about, your 5 volts is enough to power enough to charge a mobile phone. It's got nothing to do with the fact that it's 5 volts, of course.
Yeah. Right.
And obviously she knows that now, but back then it's clear, that basics like that, they just, didn't know. But anyway, I'm sure they've been working hard. I've seen photos of them, work. They've got lots of funding. They've had it for quite a few years now, all this funding, and they've been working their arse off to produce, which I'm sure is a very technically impressive prototype if they'll ever show it to us.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, I mean, they're welcome to jump on the blog or the forum anytime and talk technical to everyone who's interested. So,
definitely.
But that's the problem. I mean, it's like the solar roadways thing. You get an idea and you're so obsessed with it that the idea can work that you will just push it beyond all, viability. You'll just keep pushing and keep accepting money and not accepting that it's simply not going to be practical. And And it'll have some niche application somewhere, right? Just like solar roadways, it'll probably have some niche application somewhere. But what they're claiming in that everyone will have it in their home and cafes and businesses, it's just not going to happen. And it's obvious to anyone, with any sort of, product engineering design background. It's obvious why that's the case, because it always comes down to cost and practicality.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of how wonderful your technology is. And, it doesn't matter which one is the simplest and costs the least. Well, at the moment, it's plugging in your micro USB cable, right? That's the easiest one, right? You just plug in your micro USB and bingo, your phone charges. The next step up is the inductive wireless charging. You can't carry it with, you have to sit the thing on the bench and your phone's got to sit on there and it's got to be closely coupled and, but for a lot of uses, that's fine. And then the next level up, an order of magnitude more complexity, several orders of magnitude, is this thing. And what does it solve? As you say, it's the pain, it's the pain points.
Yeah.
And the pain point is, I don't like wires. Well, okay, here's your inductive charging pad for $20. Works a treat.
So you'd also posted on the
beyond that.
You had also posted on the subreddit about or some forum thread from earlier this week.
Did I?
Yeah, something about early failure of a product.
Fail early.
Yeah, right. So people
I posted that, did I?
Someone asked about actually designing in. We're talking about products, not necessarily making it, but someone asked on the EEV blog forum about designing in early failure.
Early failure into a product. Oh, right. This is a different thing.
Yeah,
by the way, one last note on that U-beam thing. I'm always happy to be proven wrong. Please, I encourage them to prove us wrong.
Yeah, they probably won't take time to, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll go over data sets and stuff if we want.
Yeah.
If they want us to.
But as a practical design engineer, I can't help but think that there's no way in hell.
Yeah, it does kind of make you wonder. There's always that. I don't know what your first experience was, but the design review, the terrifying design review.
The design, your first design review meeting? Yeah,
first design review with a couple senior engineers, and maybe I'd sat in on one or two, and right. There's just Dave's cantankerousness is not limited to Dave's, and my cantankerousness.
No, this is what we do for a living.
Right, yeah. I mean,
if you work in a decent company, this is what you're expected to do. You're expected to go into these design review meetings and go, "This is bullshit." It's not going to work because. And then then the people on the other side of the table are supposed to defend themselves technically. And they go, yes, it will work because look, here's our data.
Here's the data. I tested this and this and this.
And then your response is, great, okay, fantastic, thank you very much.
I have changed my mind.
Right? Yeah, engineers change their mind. That's what they do. Just show us the data. It's talk is one thing we don't like is talk. Data, prove it to us.
That's right, folks. We don't like talk, and that's why we're going to talk for another half hour.
And that's why we're going to talk. That's why we waffle on for an hour every week. Goodness. Anyways, this is not a design review meeting. It's entertainment.
No. That would be interesting. Maybe we should do that at some point. We could have people...
a real design review meeting.
Oh, God, that would be...
Maybe we could have a spoof design review meeting. Have you seen that video that goes around of, that went around of that guy, that engineer, and he was trying to defend his, you remember? You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, he was at a whiteboard, or there was a product designer and being like, well, maybe we can do this and this and this, and he's just staring at the camera. He's like, no, I just said you cannot do that. I don't remember
and they go, why? And he goes, the laws of physics, or something like that,
Yeah.
And that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I suppose the spoof's already been done, hasn't it? So there you go.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting just as a... Yeah, maybe it'd be really terrible radio, but just kind of asking questions of people that are talk about their designs. The other problem with design reviews though too is like, same thing here, right? If people don't review data before they go in, right? So like I think that's a big problem with design reviews too, is that when people are busy enough that they don't have time to actually go over the pre-prepared materials, there's no
they just rock up and
schematics haven't been done, and then what happens is usually you get assuming it's just like schematic or layout review. Like for schematic review, it would be like I'd bring in stuff, and because other people were busy, and it's like, oh well, you spelled this wrong. So what, man? Like, come on, like tear me a new one here. Like this is and at the point, like you really want. If you don't get that feedback, it's almost if you don't get the people asking the deep questions, it's like that either they haven't reviewed it or they don't understand it. So it's just really unnerving when people don't say anything. They don't.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I was always the person who, asked all the questions.
Yeah, I can see that.
Some people I work with for 10 years would never say a damn thing in a design review meeting. Right. And I'm the one asking questions, and I'm going, why? Like, are you too afraid to, or you're just dumb enough not to think of questions? And I know for a fact they aren't. I know for a fact they're smart enough. And, well, why? Do you not want to, offend somebody? That's the whole idea of a design review meeting. Is you go in there and, that is the stated goal. Sometimes they'll formally announce it right at the start of the meeting. Right, the goal of today's meeting is to tear this design to shreds.
Right.
Right? Who's first? And have you ever been in those brainstorming sessions, often, I've been in full day, brainstorming sessions where you got, whiteboard and, big paper, things, and everyone has to come up with a different idea, so you'd go away for an hour and you come up with your own idea, you come back and everyone compares ideas, and hopefully the goal is to come up with the best combination of all the ideas, and often they will do that. It'll be the exact opposite. It'll be, right, somebody gets up and they present their idea, and you're not allowed to say anything negative. That's the rule. You're only allowed to say, what I like about this, and this is, and this is going to work because, and that's the rule. It's sort of exactly the opposite to those design review meetings,
Right.
Where you have to try and, test. It's like being at a DEF CON conference thing, right? People are trying to test the security of a thing. It's like, and that's what design engineers do. They try and test the, whether or not the design is a good idea or not, whether or not it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I think the reason they do that kind of stuff is they do that because that's for like brainstorming though. Like you're not supposed, like in brainstorming sessions, you're not supposed to tear stuff down because it's like that never gets a chance. But that's also the downside.
It's negative reinforcement.
Yeah, well, the downside there is that they're not really necessarily hashed out. That's the downside to start with. So, but at a design review meeting, it's like you're supposed to be coming there with your best as well, right? So
that's right. Yeah,
if you're just showing up,
it's a different
like,
ballgame.
oh, I'm gonna riff on some ideas at a design review. You're at the wrong meeting.
Yep, exactly.
So how about this? How about this question here? The designing in early failures. Is that?
Yeah, somebody asked on the forum. Yes, has anyone ever? And we ask here of our audience: has anyone ever, as an engineer, been asked to or has designed in deliberate early failure into a product, i.e., it's only supposed to last 12-month warranty. Have you put a timer in there that, blows smoke after after 13 months, right?
Yeah.
And a few people have said, well, at least one I'm reading here has said yes, I've done that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I believe it. I completely believe it. And I was thinking about, before I got through the replies, I was thinking about how, if any of my stuff has ever done that, and I was thinking, the only way that, and someone actually said something similar, is that, if you go for a lower quality component, or that there's a chance that, something fails, but it'll probably be outside the the failure window. Yeah, I've done that, but not.
But
like,
it's not deliberate. Well,
yeah.
I've been forced to by economics or whatever. They go, oh look, we can't use this component because it's it's $10. You're going to have to use this $1 component, and then they come up, and then as the design engineer or one of the design engineers, you get pushed to, look, they management asks you, look, will this $1 component work? Will it work? And the engineer in you grumbles and goes, oh yeah,
maybe.
Kinda,
under these
it will.
border conditions or boundary conditions,
under these
right?
And you're sort of coerced and forced into doing it. It's not like it's not like me as a design engineer goes, oh, I'm going to deliberately use this $1 part because the company will make a fortune when it fails 13 months into the, and I'm going to do accelerated life testing on it and prove that it only gets 13 months life, on average, that bell curve kind of thing. And it's like, no, I've never done that. But sort of maybe by proxy, I've been sort of...
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe. Not really.
I was surprised about this. I was talking to someone about, like distributor websites. Maybe it was you. I actually don't remember. But the possible risk, when you see like, oh, that part, like when you sort by price. I know that's not a great thing to do, but it's it happens, right?
No,
it's
it's an absolutely good thing to do. Why is it not? If you've got 20 different op amps that can do the job, hell yes, I'm going to sort by price.
Right. Well, here's the problem. If you're buying from a distributor, right, there's no way to know that the pricing isn't based internally, right? So, as people know, right, there's manufacturers, they make the chips, right? They make chips, they sell them in bulk, sometimes directly to OEMs, but most of the time to distributors, and distributors hold stock and then sell them in quantities of one up to, very, very many. And the thing is, sometimes line cards change, alliances change, business decisions change, and the thing that can get you screwed is like your low price might be because they're trying to get rid of stock at the distributor, right? It's not common, but that's something where that would be a very impactful decision, right? You chose based on price,
of course,
and now you're kind of up a creek because maybe the part's not obsolete from the manufacturer, but you might have 12-week lead times, or maybe it's actually double the price somewhere else, and that decision is just these decisions that are made in like the short term that we only have so much knowledge as engineers, right? We don't have this like supreme supply chain knowledge, but that ends up hurting your product, right? And hurting the longevity of your product. I don't know. That's why it's good to design replacements, I guess. But
that is a real thing. Yeah.
So,
but it's not the same for every. It's not the same for every project you do. Some projects, look, I'm only going to make 1,000 units, so I'm going to, buy the cheapest part that I can get now. I don't care about, a 10-year life span or something like that.
Right.
So
because you might have to pay for that. You might have to, that can change your specs too. I mean, I've had that where, so there's some like hot new whiz bang part, but it's like, I think I did this in contextual electronics, where I actually backed off on the specs in order to go towards a more commoditized component, right? So
yes,
actually,
I've done that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has, right? You go. Oh, well, this is the great looking transistor, but I'm going to throw a 3904 in there because I know that if this one goes, I can get one later, right? It's a measure. It's all about a measure of risk, and you kind of trade off the specs there, and just got to do it. I don't know.
It's interesting that some projects, the specs are flexible like that. Others just aren't. I've worked on ones that there is no compromise. The specs are the specs, and it doesn't. And your job is to meet the specs regardless of cost. You have to meet that performance.
Well, there's
no
the cost thing, right? There's the regardless of cost. Full stop. And Dave was working on military
great
stuff.
Projects. Exactly. I've worked on that where cost is not an issue.
Yeah.
So.
How about this though? What do you prefer? So I was actually talking to someone about this at DEF CON. They were talking about toy manufacturing and how just the challenge. Actually, it was Jared, the guy that I think it's Jared. He works with Mike Osman on the.
Right.
He's doing a plug-in board for the Hack RF. So Hack RF's finally delivered. I talked to Mike about that a little bit. Got to meet Mike in person.
Excellent.
Before you, he showed me the Hack RF number 2 in a case. It was very nice looking.
Surprise!
Yeah. And but then Jared's working on the Daisho, which is their USB 3.0 analyzer.
Yeah.
That's in progress right now. But then Jared's doing like a display board that can plug directly on top of the Hack RF, and then it can do all this crazy stuff.
Right.
But we were talking a little bit over lunch about just like, the difference between that, pretty, not like high end, but, mid tier, prosumer type stuff, right? It's something that's going to plug into the Hack RF. It's definitely not a toy, but he had worked in the toy sector. Obviously we've had Todd on the show, we've had Jerry on the show, and just kind of that difference in there. And like there's a difference in the type of engineering, right? Between that and military type tech, and I've never done the super low end stuff, and I'm very intrigued by it. No,
I've never done the super high volume, razor thin margin consumer stuff. No,
yeah.
I've done the high volume stuff. I've done like 300,000 boards.
That's
kind of volume. It's pretty high volume, but where look, if you save 1 cent per resistor, right? Spread that across. You can save a lot of money. Just by, it's worth somebody's full-time wage for a year just to get the cost down on one part, so it's actually worth them, flying out, whining and dining some distributor or something like that to shave a couple of cents off a part.
Right, exactly.
Because it's actually in the end when, when the accountant goes, right, this is the profit we made, bingo, it pays for itself. So, yeah. You have to put a lot of work into that.
That's not fun work though either. I don't think. I mean, like the whining and dining's not bad, but like the hunting for that's like closer to manufacturing engineering, I think, as well. There's that kind of weird middle ground between when a design leaves an engineer's desk to
yeah.
It depends how big the company is too, right? If you have manufacturing next to you, you can go out there and kind of talk to them. But usually for the big stuff where it's going to be high volume anyways, there's going to be intermediaries and that kind of thing, and other engineers that are optimizing that stuff. And ugh.
So you design your little baby and and cross your fingers and hope it pops out the other end mostly intact.
Yeah, right. Or at all, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or at all. Yeah, as was often the case with my products. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And that's the weird thing too. I think about it, like I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna have a chance now to do that unless I start a toy company or something like super consumery, right? Like,
you're right.
Just there's only so many. There's it's a subset of the population. I think definitely a subset of our listening audience. I think the general audience, maybe they make 100 boards and that's a lot, right? And that is a lot. There's a lot of challenges there, but. Moving up to that next echelon too of like, or not echelon, but just that next level of number of products and distributed nature of it, right? And trying to make these consumer level things. That's a big deal. Like that's why companies take on money and
exactly.
Growth. We talked about it last week, right?
Yeah. Blah. Blah.
Yeah.
What's this rubbish about schematic auto routing?
I didn't get a chance to look at this, so we can look at it live if you'd like. But I
am looking at it live now. I'm watching the video, but I'm not getting.
Well, I was gonna say my take on the matter. I have a T-shirt, not necessarily about schematics. That's for that's for layout, but I don't understand. Like, what is the draw of auto routers? I don't.
I don't know. People just want magic, to happen, and I'm sorry, electronics designers, Well,
you're going to do it at the front. You're going to do it at the back, right? I mean, you're gonna spend the time up front and make sure things are right, or you're going to spend time hovering over your bench trying to figure out why the computer connected point A to point B through six different layers.
yeah, you can auto route a board and you can probably get your prototype working, but it's just, no. And now, there's something called Wire Wizard. I don't know, I just watched the video and, well, it drew some squiggly lines over the thing and it looks crap, quite frankly, is my initial take on that. Anyway, was recently sponsored by SparkFun. Oh, I don't know. Bloody hell.
So I've actually, I talked to, when I was at Maker Faire this past time, I got to talk to Wendell from Evil Mad Science, and he was like really, really into auto routers, which I was really surprised by. But
yeah,
I think he was more interested in the math behind it. I think that's part of the intrigue is like from a computing perspective, it actually is interesting, right?
Of course. No, the algorithms, the neural network algorithms that go into it. Oh yeah, you can write PhD theses on these sorts of algorithms. Some of them are absolutely spectacular, and auto routers can do a phenomenal job, right? I've mentioned this before. I'm not totally anti-auto router. I use them and support their use, but it's not just throw down all your parts and go. You've got to set up the rules and make sure it's what it's going to do and how it's going to do it and everything, and boom, then it can save you your time and it can do a really good job, but only under the watchful eye of a trained engineer, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, like I look at like this kind of thing, like how like VHDL program or like how they a lot of people started with the complexity of like actually hooking logic together inside of not VHDL, but like like CPLDs and early FPGAs and stuff like that. People would actually draw the logic diagrams on like a Quartus 2 or something like that, and then they carry that stuff through. You wrote VHDL, and then it would back annotate and it would show the actual connections with logic and everything else. Maybe that's what people are going towards. Like they want to try and increase the level of complexity and abstraction by doing that kind of thing, by scripting connection points and everything else like that. But I don't know, like I don't know how that, like I don't think that really worked for like I think for like logic type stuff like an FPGA, if you're going to be debugging it, you're not going to be debugging it at this schematic level, but in hardware, I think you are going to be debugging it at the schematic level at some point, right? You're going to want to see the connection.
Yep.
Whereas if you open up that I don't remember. Do you remember what that view was called in Quartus? I don't remember what it was called. Maybe just a logic view or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, like you open that up and it's like you're looking at it looks like it's drawn by a computer, right? And even that, at least. It's also placing the modules, and you're creating the modules from code, so they're contained, and it's still terrible. So
yes,
I don't. Well, we'll see.
Anyway, schematic. I don't understand why you'd want to auto route a schematic in any way. And anyway, we're talking out our ass there. We haven't even looked at it. It's
not. Well, I'm gonna say off the top, it's not for me, but maybe I could be convinced otherwise. I don't know.
Show us the data.
Yeah.
Yep. Engineers love to change their mind. Just prove it to us.
Yeah.
Yep. Hype. 2014 hype. Internet of Things at peak of inflated expectations.
That's right.
Headline. Banner headline. What's all this about?
Well, so we've talked about the hype cycle before, right? We talked about it when we were talking about 3D printers and a lot of the MakerBot stuff came out. And so
I just fixed my MakerBot, by the way.
Oh, I saw that. So what have you been printing? Any like cases or anything like that?
Not cases as yet, but I've printed a few toys for Sega.
That's good.
As a trial,
I think that's
and,
a legit use, of 3D printers.
yeah, totally. And it's it fixed it, like it's like not just repaired it. I actually changed the design of how the extruder works, and it's just so much better now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
interesting.
Totally.
So, what program are you mostly just grabbing designs off? Like the what is that called?
Yep. The Thingiverse thingy.
Oh yeah, right. So you're just grabbing stuff off there. You don't have
to test it. Yeah. No, I don't have like a CAD program.
Okay.
No, I did import a case actually, and and from Hammond. I did import a Hammond case, and then unfortunately they're only available from the manufacturers, only available as a step file or a IGES file.
Yeah, I can't believe these people are they're not giving away their design files so that I can print them easily.
Yeah. But of course, step is how you want it. I mean, step is the proper format to import into your CAD program so that you can use it, like your Altium CAD 3D model program and all. That's the format
that's what they're using
and
it
that's
for,
the
right?
format that's what they're using it for. Yeah, they're not
and then
anticipating
3D printing
people are going to
wants like STL or something like that, right? That's
3D printing wants the STL solid model file.
Right,
Exactly. So, you got to convert it. And, there's programs and tools around that do it. And sometimes they do a good job, sometimes they don't. But,
yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think that is still a legit way. And so 3D printing is actually on this hype cycle, right? Because it's moved out,
right.
and it's at least a little bit better understood, and there's a lot of printers in the market, and the price is dropping and everything else over time. So yeah, it's there, right? 3D printing is it's not necessarily like, not everybody and their grandmother is doing it, but enough engineers are probably doing it that it's part of the product design cycle now. And so, but the news of this thing, so Gartner is the one, the analysis agency or whatever they're called, they basically plot things onto the hype cycle, and there's always a peak, and right now Internet of Things is listed at the peak of inflated expectations. And,
exactly.
Seems about right. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, and so are wearables. Wearables are there.
Wearables.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They're just slightly after the peak. Yep.
Yeah. What else is on this thing? Gamification is a little bit further along. And
the consumer 3D printing is there. It's right up there with wearables. It's basically on the peak of the hype cycle. Peak of inflated expectation. Yes, technically it's within the field. So consumer 3D printers are within the peak of inflated expectations at the moment.
Right. I'd say it's a little further.
And I've got to admit, because they're not, push a button and out it comes perfect every time. They're still fiddly. So
right. Yeah, there's still the software chain and everything else that does make it tough, right? I mean that's annoying. That's the same thing we talked to Nadia about for like machining, right? The same kind of thing. Like
right.
There's like a 4 or 5 step process right now. It's like, who's gonna? You have to really want it, right? Yeah.
And I love the augmented reality. Jerry will be pleased to see this. The augmented reality has fallen off the hype cycle, and it's now currently almost halfway through the trough of disillusionment.
Congratulations, Jerry. Congratulations.
I love these. And then the slope of enlightenment. What's on the slope of enlightenment? 3D scanners. Gesture control, virtual reality is on the way up.
I can see that. I mean, virtual reality, like definitely Oculus is doing well. I mean, I've been seeing a couple interesting demos of that stuff lately. So, it seems like a lot of the hardware stuff is, it's further back, right? It takes longer to deploy it necessarily than other stuff is. So, yeah. What's on the early side? The early stuff. No chip printers, huh?
Bioacoustic sensing, digital security, virtual personal assistants are on the innovation trigger up curve.
Some of these are dumb.
Human augmentation, brain-computer interface.
Data science.
Home.
Data science is on the up. I don't know. I guess.
Biochips. Neuro business. It's all there. Smart robots are there.
Yeah.
I love it. And then they reach the peak of... If people don't know how it goes, this thing goes... The innovation trigger is the up curve. And then you hit the peak of inflated expectations. And then the curve drops down drastically through the trough of disillusionment. And then it raises up again the slope of enlightenment. And then it gets to the plateau of productivity. That's how every product must go, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
Are there ones that don't do this cycle? I wonder. Are there any people have any solid examples of things that? Yeah, any solid examples of various technologies that haven't followed this curve?
Probably the ones that don't get
somebody
covered.
very smart has come up with this curve, right?
Right. Well, no, it's probably the ones that don't get covered in that are like stealth when they start. Right, so if you have it,
and then
the reason that the peak happens is because all these people are writing about it and they're waiting, right?
Right.
Oh, the Internet of Things is coming. Oh, the Internet of Things is coming. Where the hell is it?
Right.
Well, it'll get there once it gets there.
Right? Yeah.
And that's where. Okay.
She'll be coming round the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't.
Love it. All right. So there you go. Where are podcasts on the hype cycle? I
don't know. I was talking to someone about that, and someone asked me how the amp hour was, how our audience is, and I said we have a great audience, and that we've kind of flattened out in terms of how many listeners we have, but it doesn't really matter to me because it's like who cares,
exactly.
right? That's
right.
The ones that we have are good. And I honestly, what I told him is that the big thing I think is that I think podcasts are going to follow smartphone growth, honestly, because that seems like that's the biggest trigger for people listening to podcasts is getting a podcast
totally.
application. And then not only that, but then also being able to easily hook into car stereos. I think that's a big one.
Yep.
Because as more and more Bluetooth comes online, once you have that, when your phone recognizes your car radio turns on, it recognizes your phone, and you can just start playing a podcast. That's that's a really easy delivery mechanism versus I have to download it to my iPod. I used to have a shuffle, right? It was
exactly. The iPod just died. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't like that. So
yep.
Obviously, we're preaching to the choir here because whoever's listening is listening somehow. Yeah. Maybe you're listening on the website right now, which is fine. But there are other options, and I think that the growth happens from as smartphones continue to grow. And
interesting. I've got an interesting story here.
No, I'm going to cut you off because you always say, "And one more thing," and one
more thing. Damn it. One more thing, very, very shortly. I have,
No, I get to say one more thing. I get to say one more thing. You always say one more thing. No, there's a new podcast. That's what I was going to say. The Spark
there is a new podcast. Yep, awesome. Good to hear new podcasts. But I've got an example which ties into the earlier thing of knowing when to quit. Right? Because I had this great idea at the time of a fitness program, right? And that was on your that could turn any phone into a fitness, this was before smartphones, right? This was before smartphones, so it embedded voice prompts into Nokia, any phone at all, right? That could play that could play back an MP3, right? Which was almost all of them at the time. And right, so it didn't have to be a smartphone. It wasn't an app. It was a program which ran on your computer. I wrote this thing, and what it would take is your song library, to take your existing song library, and I wrote code that actually embedded fitness instructions in the start of your song. Right, and then it would re-download those songs automatically to your phone, and then so you could listen to your music at the gym, and it would automatically have all of your personalized fitness instructions tacked on to the music, right? And I thought this was really good, right? And then I saw smartphones coming, right? I saw them come, and I'm going like, there's going to be an app for everything, and I'm going to be out of business. So I just gave it up, right? I was about to get a patent for it because my brother-in-law's a patent attorney, and he wrote a patent for me and everything, And I was going to, invest a lot of, I'd already invested a lot of time into writing this thing and getting it working, and I just saw it coming.
Yeah, but maybe having a go at it.
Nah, and I went, well, okay, it was a great idea, but I think it's going to fail and sure enough, I'm glad I didn't spend any more time on it. I'm glad I just gave it up. Because then the app thing came along and just wiped the floor. It just could not compete. So yep. Anyway, I think it's still novel. But there you go. I did see it coming, and I knew when to quit. Fail fast, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it for today's show.
Well, speaking of, so I was gonna say, speaking of iPods, I did notice on the way in that this Airbnb I'm staying at has a Nest here, and I've actually never, as much as I lamented, I've never actually tried it. So I'm gonna go try it out.
How do you try out a Nest? What do you do? Do you wave your arms in front of it and flip at the bird? What the hell do you do?
No, it's got like a US, like how it's got like a rotating dial kind of interface, and there's like, if you push it in, it's got a push button.
There's a wall plate thing, right? Right.
Yeah, I want to try out the UI. I've read about it a lot, but I've actually never tried it in person. And really, I want to try out the UI.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it is.
Knock yourself off. Don't burn the house down.
Yeah, right. Next week we will have Trey German from TI, Texas Instruments, and he is an applications engineer in the C2000 group, which is it's a microcontroller that also has a DSP on board, I believe. We'll ask him more about that, but it's used a lot in motor control, and it's been around for a really long time. And I'm excited to ask about motor stuff because I had that period where I was really interested in motors.
Yeah, that's right. And has that passed, has it?
It's still lingering, so.
All right, yeah. As all old projects do, they always linger.
That's right.
Just like my Pod Sweat fitness program, it always lingers.
Yeah, they don't die, they just go in the drawer.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, man, I'll talk to you next week.
See ya.